brought to you by the Every Dollar app. Start budgeting for free today.
Okay, my question is, I have been listening to you guys for about 2 or 3 months, and I'm really gung-ho. My husband and I are almost to baby steps 4, 5, and 6, and I know you guys say to be intentional in those and do them together. So when you're in those steps, why should my husband and I not put extra money into an investment that has a 12% return instead of paying off our house that has an interest rate of 2.5?
Mortgage rates have dropped, so if you're thinking about buying a home in the next year, contact your local Churchill mortgage team right now. If you wait, more people will be in the market competing for the same homes and potentially driving up prices. Churchill will help you do the math to be sure your budget is correct, making your home a blessing and helping you build lasting wealth. Learn more at churchillmortgage.com. churchillmortgage.com. It's a great math question, and the reason is more than math. So we studied 10,167 millionaires, okay, and asked them, how did you become a millionaire? Did you inherit the money? Did you win the lotto? Are you a country music star? Did you save and invest? How did you do it? What did you do? What's your age? What's your income? What's your career? So we could find some correlations, and 10,000 people is enough to study to draw some real airtight research-based conclusions. And we got a lot of wonderful data from that. In other words, facts. Here's what's interesting. The number of those millionaires that said, I became a millionaire because I borrowed on my home at a lesser interest rate so that I could invest more, which is effectively what you're talking about doing. You're not borrowing on it, but you're not paying it off, which is the same thing. Okay? The number of them that said, I delayed paying off my home so that I could invest more, and that's how I became a millionaire. You know how many of them it was out of 10,000?
Not very many.
0. We never had one tell us that's how they became a millionaire, was that they leveraged their home into investments. Isn't that interesting? And yet the math that you bring up is actually accurate. I mean, there's, you can borrow money,
sure,
or you might have a mortgage at 3%, and you can make 10, 12, maybe 14%. In the last 12 months, you can make 30% on an S&P, okay, which is not normal. But you're 12%. I don't argue with it all. The difference is that you're going to be paying taxes on the money unless you're investing it into a Roth, and you've also taken more risk because you're home. So something happens to people when they get their home paid off. The freedom that they sense in their relationships and their careers causes them to prosper more and faster than the difference in the interest rates. And so that's the only explanation I've got for it. And I will tell you this. Here's an interesting thing you can do. Go ahead and pay off your house. And if you hate it, just go get another mortgage.
That's where I am. I really want to do that, but I'm also married to an accountant who says he knows the math. And
here's the problem.
I see it.
Let me submit to him that he's doing a naive, primitive, incomplete math formula, because his math formula does not include risk, and his math formula does not include taxes. And if he can quantify the risk exactly and put it into a math formula, he's a better guy than I am, and I'm a math nerd from now on. But it is a real risk, because we can all honestly say the more debt you have, the more risk you have. Agreed?
Yes.
And to not mathematically factor that into his formula makes his formula naive and incomplete. So I don't care if he's an accountant. He's wrong.
Right.
That's the thing. I mean, now how do you convince him of that? I don't know.
That's a different story.
You've been convincing him he's wrong since you got married, so maybe you can work on it.
Yeah. My biggest question for him would be, what is his ultimate goal, and why are you guys doing this?
His ultimate goal is build wealth, and he thinks he's leveraging the money. Right? Am I right?
Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is it a, let's say he says, my goal is to have $8 million, right? Is it a time frame? Is it a time frame he's so caught up on? Or is there a way that you can present that argument and say, hey, we can still get there. We're just going there in this order, and this is going to give me more peace. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, Hannah, he was trained by the same people I was trained by. My finance professor was broke. What's wrong with that picture? A broke finance professor is like a shop teacher with missing fingers. My grandpa was not broke. And he was also an accountant. The reason he was not broke, though, is he avoided debt like the plague because he was a child of the Great Depression. And he had no debt, no debt, no debt, no debt, no way, no debt. And when I started going in debt like a crazy man to buy houses in my 20s, he said, I'm going to throw you out of the family. You couldn't be one of ours. You're too dumb. He didn't say that, but he made me feel that. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, because it's just so polar opposite of what that generation that had common sense lived. Mm-hmm. So the problem, Hannah, is your husband was trained by a broke finance professor to believe an incomplete, inaccurate math formula. And you can play this back for him. But, and Jade, it's an interesting conversation because we get this question like
all the time,
once a week, right? Yeah. And when I first started this journey being common sense money, mm-hmm. I've got a finance degree. I've got letters and licenses of all kinds after my name that says I'm supposed to know something about money, but I'm 28 years old and I'm bankrupt because I borrowed too dadgum much money and I'm an idiot. Mm-hmm. And I got the opportunity to start over. My wife would have left, but she didn't have a car. I mean, it was awful, horrible. And I was a brand new Christian. And so I started learning from this guy named Larry Burkett that the Bible had financial principles. And I read in there, the borrower is slave to the lender. And then I read in there, he who is impulsive exalts folly. And then I read in there, the blessings and cursings to the house of Israel as they crossed the Jordan mm-hmm. after Moses has led them in the wilderness. The blessings are you will be so wealthy you will be a lender. The cursings are you will be a borrower. Yeah. Every single thing in Scripture that I was reading as a brand new believer was negative about debt. And yet my intellect and academics all told me that to borrow money like her husband, the accountant. And I struggled with exactly the same thing. But I made the decision in those days on the basis of faith. Mm-hmm. I just said, okay, I tried it the academic way. I went broke. And I'm going to try this Bible stuff. And it's common sense. Now, years later, I discover, they left out risk. They let the math formulas 100%. Incomplete. These academics aren't so dadgum smart after all. Who knew? Create your free every dollar budget today, the simplest way to budget for your life.